I fully support a timely reauthorization of the bank, and I hear regularly from my constituents of the irreplaceable role that the bank plays in making New Jersey exports competitive on the international market. Many of these companies have come to Washington to explain how Ex-Im has supported their efforts around the world. Others have written to me in support of Ex-Im's reauthorization, and I'm speaking for them here today. Now, I'd like to share with my colleagues a story about a situation in Ukraine, something that provides a great example of how the Export-Import Bank can play a critical role in furthering U.S. national security and economic interests. Ukraine gets fully half of its electricity from nuclear power. Historically, they have been dependent on Russia to manage the used fuel from its plants. After the Orange Revolution, Ukraine moved to break that tie by establishing its own spent fuel storage facility. I know about this issue because a New Jersey firm, Holtec International, won the contract to construct that state-of-the-art facility. Because of Russia's economic and military aggression, the new government in Ukraine did not have the resources to go forward with that New Jersey firm. That's where the Ex-Im Bank comes in, by providing loan guarantees to help manage the risks of investing in this strategically important country, something that the Senate has clearly espoused on by virtue of votes that it has had in the Ukraine Freedom Support Act that I wrote along with Senator Corker. Ex-Im can make this deal possible. Such a project would bring jobs and income into New Jersey, where Holtec is expanding its presence with a new $260 million manufacturing facility. It would support Ukraine's ability to develop its own expertise and infrastructure and remove a lever of Russian influence in Ukraine. Ukraine would also keep over $1.5 billion in fees that would otherwise be sent to Russia. Unfortunately, since the contract was awarded, the security situation in Ukraine has not permitted the project to go forward. Now, we heard some arguments on Tuesday that American firms should essentially sink or swim on their own in international markets, that we don't need additional options to pursue our diplomatic and security goals, even as other nations, including our most significant trading partners and rivals, continue to pour more resources into promoting their exports. Now, in a world of perfect markets, in a world where all countries wished us well, in a world where no other nations provided support for the international operations of their industries, that would be an appealing idea. But that is not the world that we live in. So here is a medium-sized business, not some major corporation, that is on the front line of both nuclear technology and an ongoing national security challenge that would be an important beneficiary of the kind of work that Ex-Im does. So, President Hochberg, how do you see the role that Ex-Im Bank plays in bolstering U.S. national security and foreign policy through the services that it provides U.S. companies?
Well, thank you, Senator Menendez, and thank you for your support and the many companies we work with in New Jersey. Let's be clear. Number one, our number one priority is U.S. jobs. That's what we're here to do. We're here to support U.S. jobs through the financing of exports. That said, obviously, economic security and national security go hand in hand. We work with a number of defense contractors who are now moving into commercial fields. Oshkosh is a good example. Darley is another example. There are a number of them. We're financing theirs. But most importantly, it's about U.S. jobs. But clearly, if you have energy security, and you mentioned nuclear, nuclear is one of the areas that we've been active in. It's one of the areas commercial banks are reluctant to engage in, and certainly reluctant to engage in without our assistance and guarantees. So I think there's a very close relationship between those national security interests, economic security, and jobs.
Let me ask you one other question. China has been particularly aggressive in export financing. As of 2013, it extended over $45.5 billion in export credits, 3 times the amount extended by Ex-Im. So you touch on this in your written and oral testimony. Could you elaborate on the trends you're seeing in export financing by major U.S. economic competitors?
Well, China is right now the largest exporter in the world. We were number one a dozen years ago. I actually believe we could be the number one exporter again because of the technology and innovation. That said, China has 4 different state-owned banks that do export credits. We have one. Just one of those, called Sinosure, in 2 years has done about $670 billion worth of loans and guarantees. It took us 80 years to get to $590 billion. So they've done more in 2 years than we did in 80 years. So, and they have indicated they have no interest in stopping whatsoever. That said, the Secretary of the Treasury has we've been working on negotiating that they join an international framework so we have transparency and we try and tamp that down. But that is an ongoing negotiation, and it's taking time.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just think that we should not engage in unilateral disarmament, and that is exactly what we will do if we let XM expire.